Okay, so now you're running for the Senate seats in Eagle River, and you're a Democrat. So why do you think you can win that seat as a Democrat?
Sure. So I think that it's all because of ranked choice voting, actually. So ranked choice voting allows for more moderate candidates to have a greater advantage than they could before. So I think that running as a moderate Democrat will actually give Democrat voters the first shot in 20 years to actually get a Democrat elected to the local Senate seat.
So you think ranked choice voting gives you I don't want to say an advantage, but gives you an opportunity?
Yes, it gives, a much needed opportunity. By default, that would mean that the Democrats have not had proper representation or even a chance at representation for the last 20 years, and I feel that I can give that to them.
But do you feel that because Eagle River is so red, do you feel like if you, say, did win, or maybe you got to the general election as a Democrat, some people might see this as a flawed system?
I don't think so. I think I'm moderate enough that I can appeal to both parties. Reason being, I'm an Eagle Exit board member, and a lot of conservatives support that effort. But I also have thousands of hours of volunteer community service here in Eagle River on our local road board and CRAB over the last 5 years. And I don't think that's a claim that any other candidate in this race can make.
Okay, now, other thing is, you don't have any signs around town, so how are you going to get your name out there and your face out there so people know who you are when, if you drive through Eagle River, you see all the other candidates with signs? You don't have any. So how do you expect to appeal to voters?
So the campaign's off to a slow start for sure. I did not get the party endorsement that I was expecting that would have kick-started a lot of those efforts, so I'm mostly self-funded, and it's just me and one other team member putting everything together, and we're doing the best we can, but the signs are currently on order right now, and they should arrive shortly.
So the Democrat Party didn't give you their endorsement?
No.
Oh, did it give you a reason why?
They said that I wasn't a viable candidate in a news article, despite my efforts to establish contact and good relations with them for several months, which means that I can't really afford the luxury of running a traditional campaign. I'm out here alone. Every other candidate has party support of one kind or another, but I'm here to go ahead and do my best to represent my community either way.
Now, why do you think you appeal to Eagle River voters? Because even the Republican candidates I talked to said they don't think Senator Kirch is a conservative, and that's why they're running against her. And you being a Democrat, it almost seems like they're going to pound down you even more. So why do you think you would appeal to Eagle River voters?
Because of my service to the community over these 5 years. I briefly touched on my involvement with Eagle Exit. That's how I got my start. And that, more than any other organization or effort in Eagle River, is incredibly pro-Eagle River more than anything. I can't think of any accolade that I could acquire that would win the hearts and minds of the voters of my hometown more than that. So I'm really proud to bear that as a tremendous amount of my experience. And hopefully that allows voters that aren't Democrats to see me as a viable second ranking candidate, or even a first ranking candidate, if they're able to go ahead and support those efforts as well.
Now, if you were to talk to, say, voters in this area and say, I'm a moderate, say I'm not, a left-leaning Democrat, I'm a moderate Democrat, a centrist, what do you believe in? What are your policies? I mean, are you kind of like a Bill Clinton Democrat, fiscally conservative, but you have some left-leaning progressive policies? What do you stand for?
Sure. Before we briefly go into that, I don't think that a Democrat could get elected if they weren't a moderate in Eagle River specifically. You've alluded to that as well. It's not exactly fair to the Republican voters to not have that, and I think that's contributed a lot towards why the Alaska Democratic Party has apprehension towards supporting me. As far as policies go, I really think that healthcare is important to Eagle River. Eagle River sits between two bridges, and on either side of it are very large hospitals, but we don't have anything here. So if we run into a very large earthquake, we are not going to get the kind of care that we need in the time necessary to save lives. So that's That's a state process, not an Eagle River process. So that's one thing that I'd be really happy to work on should I get elected. Another thing that's a big problem for Eagle River is snow maintenance. This winter in particular, we had a failure on the part of the state to maintain the state maintained roads here in Eagle River that resulted in plows being delayed by 2 or 3 days. And while we do maintain our own side streets, if people can move around the neighborhoods but they can't get out on the highways, they can't go to work in Anchorage and they're trapped. So those are two of the bigger problems that's very specific to Eagle River residents.
Now, some of the challengers in the race, they kind of said they don't see Miss Merrick as a traditional conservative. They don't think she's a conservative candidate. Maybe some of them kind of feel like she's a Democrat who runs as a Republican. Do you feel that? Do you see that as siphoning votes away from yourself?
No, I don't think so. I think that I'm going after the Democrats, the Democrat voters, and I think that Kelly is trying to appeal to the Republican voters, and I don't think that we're in conflict at all.
Now, you said something that's so important to you is a full PFD.
Yes.
And you said you have a different philosophy on how to get to that than, say, other people do. Just explain that to me.
Sure. So conservatives want to get to a full PFD by cutting expenses, and traditional Democrats don't want a full PFD at all. I propose a middle ground of try to go for a full PFD by adding additional revenues to make up the difference and balance the budget.
Now, in this race, if you don't get through to general election, what are you going to do?
If I don't get through to general election,
like say you're eliminated.
Right. So if I'm so there's 5 people in this race. So one of them is not going to be able to move forward. It is either going to be the one Democrat or Republican number 4. I don't think it's likely that I'll get eliminated. If I do, I don't know. Maybe I'll launch a new project or something of the like.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you feel like you could work with the Eagle River delegates to, in this area, like, Mr. Stadler and Mrs. Allard? Do you feel like you could work with them? Do you have a relationship with them currently?
We've crossed paths a few times over the years. I've been politically active in Eagle River for about 5 years, so I know just about everyone. And we don't have any hard feelings despite myself running in a complete polar opposite of a position. And once I do get to the legislature, it will be expected that I work with people that may not agree with me on everything. But ultimately, Eagle River needs to remain unified and strong and be able to work with people despite disagreements. So I think that we can go ahead and do that.
Where do you think you share common ground with Mr. Stadler and Ms. Allard? Where is there common ground with you guys?
I think common ground needs to be created. So I think that the current political climate is incredibly divisive, and I believe that there creates a bit of an opportunity for someone who's looking to bridge the gap between parties, and I'd like to think that I can offer that to the people of Eagle River.
Okay, this is the last question for you. Where do you feel like, as I asked you before, where do you feel like Senator Merrick is lacking to where you have a strength that gives you an advantage?
Sure. Senator Merrick doesn't represent Democrats. And as a Democrat, and with her as a Republican, I do. So I think it's to the best interests of the Democrat voters here in Eagle River to support the person that's representing their interests.
Now, do you find it ironic that her Republican candidates in this race say the complete opposite as you? They feel like she represents Democrats, she doesn't represent conservatives.
Well, I think that if she does represent Democrats, then she should have registered as a Democrat. Wouldn't that make sense? People being honest in politics?